Heidi, you waiting on me? Hey, John, you might have to put yourself on mute. I'm not sure. We're getting a lot of feedback. I think it's coming from your camera. There we go. That's better.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I can hear you now, Heidi.
Perfect.
Okay, we ready to go?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the Seldovia City Council, Monday, March 22nd, 6 p.m. Roll call. Morrison?
Here.
Rojas?
Here.
Payton?
Here.
Nathan?
Here. Oh, sorry.
Is that you? Is that George?
I'm here.
Okay, Sweat
Here.
and Colberg.
Here.
Okay, looks like we have everyone in attendance. We do have a quorum. If everyone will join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
United States
States of America,
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excused absences, we have none. Agenda approval.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda of March 22nd, 2021.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, do we have a motion to approve with the second? Do we have any amendments on the agenda tonight? Okay, no amendments. All right, we'll go ahead and take a vote to approve the agenda. All those in favor, Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Payton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
aye.
Colberg.
Aye.
Okay, agenda is approved for this evening. Item E, consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are approved with a single motion, no discussion, and one vote. The council member may request to remove any item for discussion and a separate vote. Tonight, we have item 1, approval of minutes for the regular meeting, February 22nd, 2021. That's found on page 5. And minutes of the regular meeting for March 8th, 2021. That's found on page 12. No payment approval reports or no ordinance introduction. Does any member wish to remove either of those items for discussion on their own?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
I need to make a correction. Do I do that now?
Yeah, correction on what?
On the minutes of the regular meeting, March 8th, 2021, and it would be page 4 of those minutes, where it says, you made a comment there, it says Mayor Campbell, and it says, is to explore further options further, and spoke of postponement until more information could be gathered, and Councilmember Rojas and Councilmember Sweat were available. Sweat should be Payton.
Correct. Okay, good catch. Heidi, you've got that?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Good catch.
Thank
Okay, was
you.
there any other corrections?
Not really.
Okay, so we'll get back to item E of the consent agenda, and I'll just need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the
Second.
correction.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the consent agenda for the 2 sets of minutes, and the March 8th had a one minor correction there. We have, that motion was by Sweat, second by Rojas. All those in favor, Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas.
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Colberg.
Aye.
Item E, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. That's going to take us to item F, mayoral proclamations. We have none. Item G, public presentation. Prior notice, each presenter has up to 10 minutes. And we've got a few folks tonight scheduled. The first one will be Aaron McKittrick with HEA.
Please not allow her to talk.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hey, Aaron, yep, we got you loud and clear.
Hey, so I don't actually have a whole lot to say today, which is great because one of the things that means is that we haven't had any major outages or trouble with the generator or anything like that, which is great. We had a HEA meeting in early March, and most of what we did is kind of the normal stuff we've got to do. So we reviewed the audit report, which all looks good. And the one sort of economic thing that's kind of hanging over all of our heads is because of the pandemic, there were a lot of people that couldn't pay their power bills and moratoriums on disconnects. So as the weather warms up in the spring, there's going to be a substantially larger number of people than usual with very overdue bills. And so if you know anybody like that, encourage them to reach out to HEA now and try to get a plan going and not just be cut off as soon as the weather gets above freezing. Not a whole lot else. There's a bunch of stuff going on at kind of a regulatory level with all of the rail belt utilities trying to figure out how to form this new electric reliability organization that we're supposed to form and how to have it not end up like the one in Texas did this winter. And so that's kind of some of what's going on. And I'd just like to be here for anybody's questions.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Yep, go ahead.
Aaron, I'd just like to say kudos to HEA. The last 2 power outages by my watch were isolated, identified, generator started, and the power back on in about 12 minutes. So apparently we're beginning to have that system work just like it's supposed to. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, and I'll pass that on to the folks who actually run it, and happy not to have a long conversation about what went wrong.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Good. Yeah, thank you for that comment, George. Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I would like to express my thanks to HEA also, Aaron. I think this last power outage, it was kind of browning out in the beginning for quite a while and then went off, and then we went on the generator pretty quick. I'm not really sure if they identified where that outage was, but the browning out is just where things don't disconnect quick enough. Is that what the brownout business? I mean, it's harder than heck on your appliances and whatnot, but is that what it is? They just keep on dying and just don't, and then finally go off when they're completely.
I think sometimes what
Mhm.
that is, and I'm not, the line engineer, so I may be wrong, but I think sometimes what that is a tree that's kind of bowing down with snow and leaning on the power line a couple times before it actually hits it. So
Mhm.
that I think is sometimes what's going on, and the system, it doesn't it's something has weight on it that's about to break.
Right. Okay, yeah, thanks. And I know that a lot of people are very much interested in when HEA comes up with its plan of how it's going to, through cell phones, I think, notification. I think a lot of people are pretty excited about that moving forward. But yeah, a lot of people are very happy when the generator comes on without any glitches. That pleases people, and pass that on to them, that a lot of happy cooperative owners in HEA are happy about that.
Thanks. And as for the cell phone thing, our tech guy is definitely working on that. And I think that when that's ready, I'll try to get him to come and present that new initiative himself to all of you.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
That'd be good. Yep, go ahead, Brewing.
Yeah, Aaron, I was under the impression that these transformers make 3 attempts to come back on. If something lays across the line, it will try to burn through it. Is that correct?
It might be correct.
That might be what the brownout fires. It's trying to work through the limb.
That could be. I think that makes sense, but I can't say for sure because I am on the board, but I'm not the engineer. So that's getting a little beyond my level. I can ask though.
Yeah, I think it'd be something to find out for sure and be able to pass that along, but that's the way I understand it.
Sure, I make notes of these days. I'll bring that back to you next time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Pearlie. Anyone else with any questions for Aaron tonight? All right, short and sweet. Aaron, thank you for your presentation tonight. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, have a good evening. Okay, it looks like item G2, our next presenter this evening, we have Lisa Stanish, who is the SOC coordinator. And this will be a presentation on the roles and services of the SOC and SRSA. And this will be found on page 18 of your regular packet.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep. Loud and clear. Hey, Lisa, how are you tonight?
Excellent. Hello, Council. Nice to hear from you. So I will do there's a lot of information between the SOC, the SRSA, the city, and the borough, and our very interesting relationship that we have together. Mark Janes is also here as the SRSA board president, correct, Heidi?
Correct. Yep, he is here and able to speak when it's his time as well.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
I will speak on the SOC portion. Just try to give you guys an update of what's going on with the Seattle Community Center, and then SRSA questions. I'm a pretty integral part of developing the budget for the SRSA and all of those aspects. So Mark and I are both here to be able to field any questions you guys may have after I've kind of given you an update. So if you look at page 20 of your packet, that's a part of the department functions, and in the program description, this is I gave you a lot of information. We're not going to go over page by page through the budget, but this page right here in particular gives you a really good oversight of what the SRSA and the SOC, the duties and the services that we provide to the service area. So give those a good look when you can. A big piece of that is developing other recreational assets within the SRSA. So yes, the SOC is the major component of expenditures within the SRSA. But there's other things that the SRSA board can do outside of running the community center, and that is within our budget, which is developing other recreational services or other recreational assets within the entire service area, which encompasses the city, and it's also the outlying areas. The service area is huge, as you know, so I won't spend too much time on that. So as far as what's happening at the community center right now, we've opened up. We've been open since January. Started out with some very small programming, rentals, private rentals. I've started doing some after-school programming. I have, a few kids a few days a week. It's been, COVID's an interesting one. Pulling yourself out of COVID is difficult. Allowing your kids to commune in a community center has not been a whirlwind of people who want to just flood in and come together indoors. So we're working it out, trying to figure out how we can help support after school programming. We spend an hour outside. I have 3 days a week that I do after school programming. Kindergarten through 4th grade is on Mondays. 5th through 8th grade is on Wednesdays, and then high school is, and I say high school plus because some of those kids who have graduated out and are still around are in that plus stage. So it's a fun little group, the high school plus. And I've got, anywhere between 2 and 7 kids in each of those groups that have been coming in. We've been doing a lot of hip hop dance class, which has been really fun. The SRSA or the SOC purchased snap together dance floors. So they're 3 by 3 foot squares, and they snap together to make all kinds of configurations. I have set up, there's a double dance floor and then 5 other spaces. So we can get 6 kids in 10 feet spaced 10 feet apart so that they can take their masks off and do some hip hop dance classes that we follow on YouTube. It's been pretty fun. So those kinds of programs are coming back into play, and that's been really great. I do want, if anybody wants a newsletter as to what's happening, I've started. Communication is tough. It's always been a difficult thing to try to get the information out to what's happening in the SRSA, what's happening at the SOC, and get that information out to the public. So especially with COVID and people not really taking the time to look in the post office, the idea was, let's create a monthly newsletter and give you guys give anybody within the service area information about what's happening at the SRSA and at the SOC. So if you'd like to be a part of that newsletter, send me an email with your email address, and those go out every month. I also include a calendar of the month's events, so you guys know what's happening up there. So just send me an email, and it's seldoviasoc@gmail.com. There's postings around, and it's on the Chatterbox. So if you would like that. The other thing that's coming up within the newsletter, the latest newsletter, we have a significant fund balance in the SRSA, and Mark can help talk about this too if he wants to chime in. And we're looking for some input on what we can do with the fund balance. So there's a few reasons why the fund balance has grown so big. We didn't have a facility coordinator for some time after the resignation of a coordinator and then instilling a new one. And then with COVID being closed down a bunch, we rolled over about $32,000 into the fund balance last fiscal year. So with the building of that fund balance, we need to find a project to do to be able to spend that down. So there's some ideas out there, and it'd be great if council was aware of what's happening, so that if you have any ideas, and obviously it needs to be within the mission of the SRSA, so providing recreational assets within the community. And I'll just give you a few ideas of what those are right now. Some of the ideas that have come up are either build a washateria to support folks in the service area who don't have access to running water or electricity. So a washateria would be showers and laundry services. So that's one idea that came up on this. The other one is to build a small pavilion with a power pedestal station. It's an outdoor power pedestal station that you can hook up your phone or your computer and charge yourself up outside, little pavilion, picnic table, a place to see what's going on the tennis courts and be able to charge yourself. Everybody's power hungry. So that was another idea of what we could do with the fund balance. And then the third idea on the table right now is to update the sport court in the Susan B. English School campus. So that could cover anything from resurfacing the court, putting up there are new basketball hoops that are coming into there, but those are the big ones. We also wanted to put some basketball hoops that would help be adjustable, so we could do middle school basketball out on the court. Tennis, repaint the tennis lines, add pickleball lines, maybe add some seating for community to be able to hang out and watch their kids, and really try to nurture that love of sports back into our younger kids. So when they get into high school, we have basketball teams and such. So that's a recreational asset for sure. And those are just 3 ideas that have come up through discussions with the SRSA and our community of what we can do with this excess fund balance. If anybody else has any ideas, send me your email. I will get you a newsletter, and that will give you a link to everything I just discussed and how you can get your ideas back to us. Let's see, other than that, I understand that there's a discussion in the council to consider partnering with the city to provide a Parks and Rec committee. And, with Mark on the line to be able to speak with that, that's great. In speaking with board members myself, the concern is, we definitely want this to be a partnership. Rather, the SRSA is not an untapped fund resource for the city. My position is managed by the city, but I technically am a borough employee under the SRSA. I'm not paid by the city, I'm paid by the SRSA. So I'm managed by the city because of our relationship with the borough. So I'm not really technically a city employee. I can't technically be charged to do such and such for the city. But the SRSA itself, and with a partnership with the city, is definitely within the mission of the SRSA to provide those other recreational assets outside of the SOC. I'm the SOC, which means I run the building and what is available on campus. SRSA can extend under a conditional sponsorship or a sponsorship. They can sponsor activities and recreational asset development outside of, that discussion is definitely within the mission of the SRSA board. And I think I've said plenty. I'll let Mark chime in.
Can everybody hear me? Do we got me?
Loud and clear, Mark.
Yeah. It's and going back to that page 20 of the department functions. It's like it kind of fits with the SRSA working with I think the language says in collaboration with other organizations. So that certainly can mean the city to provide these things. And I think that that's one thing that I always thought would be kind of a value added, is if we work with the city. We do have additional funds. We want to be very careful with those. In owning the building there, I don't in any foreseeable future seeing the borough willing to help with any sort of thing that goes wrong there. If the boiler suddenly died on us, or we needed some roof repairs or stuff, I don't think the borough would be forthcoming with any sort of funds there. So we have additional funds, but we want to protect them and we want to use them wisely. But we certainly want to extend our mission to to provide additional recreational and educational opportunities for the people of the service area. I think it's a great opportunity. It was an amazing thing that our local citizens stepped up and said, we're willing to be taxed for continuing to provide services here. And we want to make sure we're doing it right and meeting needs and providing services. So we want to work tighter with the city and doing that. And I think it could be pretty positive moving forward. We're going to have to do a lot more stuff by ourselves, as we all kind of have figured out in the last year and the last 10 years here. Because we're kind of on our own, and we got to make our way.
Okay. Thank you, Mark and Lisa. Appreciate the presentation and and all the information. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff here. We'll go ahead and open it up to council for any questions or comments for
Yeah,
Lisa
Mr.
or
Mayor.
Mark. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, some great ideas you guys got going on there. I'm impressed and hope it all comes to fruition. I see you working with the school district. Is there any chance of getting into the shop and doing some educational?
I can kind of speak to that. I think I would love to get in the shop and make it kind of a community available space. I think the school district and the people there and the borough wants to see their liability covered. And we've discussed this before, and to open up the shop would have to, especially with the woodworking tools, would require somebody who has the educational certification to open that up to the community. So that's always the issue, is finding somebody who can take on that kind of liability. I know there's a couple people in town that might be able to do that, and we're kind of working towards with the service area is looking at some of our funding to like bring in contractors or temporary employees. We're still working through with the lawyers about that, to offer like short-term, a couple week classes to provide some education that way. And with the district not providing so much or any kind of VOTEC opportunities through the shop, it's something I think we could possibly look at kind of filling that gap.
And do you guys hear me?
Yep.
Mhm.
This is
Yeah, Lisa.
So yeah, and another piece of that. So I worked with the school districts last summer, or excuse me, last fall, and put together a memorandum of agreement with the school district to reopen the pottery shop. And I had that all put together and passed through everything. We were ready to go, ready to put the pottery shop together. And literally 2 days later, COVID hit and everything shut down. So we do have an active MOA to reopen the pottery shop when the district is ready to start allowing building use to happen within the school. That's not an option at this time. There is, the preschool is just started, and they have an educational agreement with this district. So it's a little bit different level than, say, what the SOC would want to do for building use agreement, because they have an agreement through a grant to provide the space for education for the preschool. So it's a little bit different situation. If people see that the preschool is open, well, why can't we get in there? That is the reason. So I am happy to look forward to next year, get that pottery shop open. And if anybody knows of somebody who is interested in contracting with the SOC to provide a wood shop or a welding shop or anything else that can happen in that wonderful facility, give me a ring and we can see what we can make happen.
There's a lot of potential. We just got to find the people to plug in there.
All right, thanks, Mark. Any other questions from council? Questions, comments? Vivian, I think, you're on mute.
There we go. That's better. Yeah, I have a
There we
question
go.
or a comment. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lisa and Mark, for coming and being part of our council meeting. I think it's always, even when I was on the board of the SURSA, communication was always tough for people to know what's going on and what does the SOC represent and what does the SURSA represent. I am very interested in maybe the city and the SURSA/SOC working together with identifying what we can do about the park and rec. Because I know when I was on the board, part of our, and with you, Mark, we were on there, was trying to figure out how we could be part of trail making and trail restoration and that sort of thing. That was something that we were trying to do, and via bringing in volunteers, having the SOC be the center where we all came together and had snacks, and then went out and built trailers, did reconstruction like that. I think that's a perfect niche for the SURSA/SOC to be a part of with the city. And so I'm looking forward to having those discussions. Maybe because the city is looking about doing something about Parks and Rec. It's just that, as you know, just like on your plate, the city has a lot on its plate. And so it's kind of like, how can we join forces as a network to accomplish the same task? So I look forward to moving forward with that. And I do appreciate your report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other questions, comments from council? All right, I just want to have one comment. Yeah, and that's what kind of sparked this whole thing was.
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
sorry, I was on mute. I just
Okay,
had
go
a
ahead.
quick question. They were talking about the shop building for certain projects, which I think is a great idea, but I'm curious, who would have to carry the insurance to open that up? Is that the school district?
No, so for the pottery shop specifically, the insurance is covered by the Sea Otter Center, because it would be our rental of the facility, using our instructor and setting up our mitigation plans or whatever plans it was within the mode of the MOA. So it would fall under the SOX insurance.
Okay, so any projects that, or anything that you would sponsor in that shop building, then the SOC would cover that insurance? Is
If
that
it
what
was
you're
run,
saying?
if it was run through a Sea Otter Community Center program, then yes, it would fall under the SOX insurance.
Okay, thanks. And thank you for giving this presentation this evening.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, that was actually a good question. So the MOA is strictly a rental type, a facility rental type relationship. So putting the burden of insurance on the SOC rather than the borough coming in and providing any of that insurance. So, all right, thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, this whole,
Mr. Mayor.
Whoop, go ahead.
Sorry to jump in here. I was just wondering, I feel like at some point there was conversation about SOC purchasing and providing and maintaining equipment for the broader service areas, such as like a volleyball net at Outside Beach, or like golf frisbee out at the RV park. Is that something that you guys have discussed, are willing to look into, might include in some of your purchases? Is that something you guys would
Yes.
consider?
Yes, so the Frisbee golf is actually within our budget, and it's budgeted to be purchased this year, which we could place anywhere in the community. And a volleyball net, that's I will add that to our list of things that we could purchase and perhaps work with the city to provide some beach volleyball with.
Perfect, thank you. Just, Clark loves you all.
Okay, thank you, Harmony, for that question. Anyone else from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead, George.
Pearlie had a follow-up for his last question, and then I got something after that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, it was, a part of it got answered with the insurance questions there. Now, if somebody was qualified to, say, do a welding course or something of that nature, SRSA will insure them, or if they started a class, they would have to get their own insurance. I wasn't quite clear on how far that goes.
That's a pretty good question. I think there's kind of several folds in that question. And it kind of depends really on how the MOA is written with the borough and on the school district and what their expectations are. As far as the pottery shop, I had a volunteer previous UAF ceramics teacher who was willing to provide this opportunity for our community. So the borough, of course, felt very secure knowing that she was previously a professor of arts at UAF. So it really depends a lot on who comes to the plate to ask to run a program like that through the SOC and what they can provide. So I don't really know if they would want he or she to have a personal business, or, you know, when you're turning into welding, it's a little bit something different. So that's, yeah.
Right.
And
I'm sure a lot of it would determine the, for lack of a better word, the danger involved in the project. Welding versus pottery, probably quite a gap there.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pearlie. George, you had another question?
Wondering what can the kids from the SOC do without having to go through a bunch of hoops as far as insurance and so forth goes? I mean, could they swing a hammer? Could they nail things together? Not talking about power tools or cutting or anything like that. Would that be something acceptable?
Well, I think it would run like a typical shop class run through the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District, where you have a certified instructor who has all of the safety protocols and courses that they need. And then that is just set up through whatever memorandum of agreement that you can set. You know, those type of situations are really case by case, depending on the age group of the kids that you're targeting, you know, the abilities of your instructor, and then then it's just working with the lawyers, the borough lawyers and the school district lawyers to understand that process.
Here's what I was thinking. You mentioned before a shower laundry facility. Kids could do a lot of things that doesn't have anything to do with the dangers of construction that would still have some effect on the project. For example, making plans, putting together a parts list, a materials list, instructions on the assembly of the thing. And then the materials could be purchased and sent to the city shop where they'd be cut and all the power tool business would be done. And then the kids could assemble the thing if they're allowed to swing a hammer, maybe do some plumbing and whatnot. Now you've got your shower room laundry set up. The kids have built it. It's an income source for them. I assume you're going to charge people to use the thing that would support the SOC, and the kids have had a pretty good lesson in some construction. Is that kind of a plan feasible, or we up against the wall with that too?
I think that there are ways you could fold the student body into a project like that, but when you're talking about building, you know, a capital asset and capital project that is built on the school district property, which is owned by the borough, all of those entities are involved, which means short-term contracts and insurance and liability and all of those pieces come into play. If you have a contractor who's willing to work with the school district to create a teaching experience out of that, you know, you might be able to do something like that, but that's a bigger memorandum of agreement to come up with. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just more difficult.
Yeah, I would like, you know, it's great to have the focus on children, but I also would like to see that opened up to the larger community who wouldn't like to get in there and play with all those unused machines in the shop. But I think, you know, I think one of our primary things as a community is we definitely need to look at providing some VOTEC opportunities for the kids coming up.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. Thank you. Thanks, George, for that question. Okay, any final questions, comments for
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Lisa or Mark?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you guys for the report, and I'm looking forward to a bright future where we can start doing a whole lot more with the SOC and educational stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right. Yeah, obviously I'll just give my closing comment here. Yeah, the whole underlying premise of this, you know, of getting some information from the SOC and SRSA board, you know, came about when we were talking about the, you know, re-implementing or restarting our Parks and Recreation Board. So, you know, I won't go into any details or, you know, in lieu of time tonight, but yeah, basically, you know, from what I've heard and seen, I mean, there is some opportunity. There's some substantial opportunity for SRSA, the SOC, and the city to collaborate, and it seems like you know it fits with what we're both trying to achieve. So yeah, I know we had a little opposition, you know, from some people that testified early on, and you know, and again, we weren't looking to do anything without or even trying to propose anything without, you know, input from SRSA and the SOC both. So yeah, I think this is just the starting point, and want to see, you know, what opportunities are out there for the city and SRSA and the SOC to collaborate. So I think from what I've heard, it's good news. I think there, you know, maybe not everything we're looking for, but I think there's certainly opportunity there that that SRSA can provide as well as the city. So yeah, thank you guys for that presentation tonight, making your time available for us to answer questions, and look forward to maybe another round here in the future when we get something together and you know, maybe come up with something to present to you guys. So probably be a few more discussions along the way, but I think this was a good start, good information gathering, and we'll see how it plays out. So
Yeah,
thank you guys. Thank you.
Let us know what you want, and we can work together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate everything. And you guys have a good evening.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right, well, that's some good information. Item G3 is going to be Chief Hawkins, Sylvia's Police Chief, and he's got a short presentation on community-oriented policing. And I think there's a flyer on page 30 of your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so just to give you guys a little what I'm talking about. This came up because I was talking to our city manager here, and she was curious on the term of COP, and I explained it was community-oriented policing. So I quickly was giving her some thoughts and what I had heard about it. Now, let me tell you a little bit And she asked me if I'd come and speak to you guys. Let me tell you a little bit about what community-oriented policing. It's not a new thing. It really came around in the big cities. Big cities used it because they were finding that officers are running from crime to crime to crime. And they're hard to interact with the people. They didn't get that. They wanted to try to change this. It does work in small communities, and it's a really amazing tool if used right, but it's nothing that's new. It's not this big thing. It's really designed for the community and the police officer to work together in order to solve crimes and help the community grow. That's really what it's about. And there's a lot of different variations of COP, and so I'm going to give you a little bit my background and stuff. Now, first thing I want to say is this is not a huge change. I'm not coming in to do this big change and make everyone scared. I know that change scares people. That's not what it is. It's just to help the community. We just improve together and grow. That's what I want to do. Quick little background so you guys understand why I like this and I understand why COP is important to me. I came from Davis County in Utah. Little background on Davis County is the second smallest county area-wise, but for land that people live on, it's the smallest county in Davis County, in the state of Utah, sorry. But it's the third most populous, so it's just people. We're packed. And I was running, and we had about 300 officers where I was at. Now, that's not all in patrol, but we were, lots of different officers, not counting the city officers, and we would run from call to call to call. But there were some downtimes, but mostly we were busy. It was hard to interact with people. But one of my favorite times is when we were down. I would love to drive through the community, see people and stop and talk to them. And there's a reason for that. I wanted them to know who I was, get to know me, and get to know that they could come and talk to me as a person. And if there was problems, they didn't feel scared to come and talk to me, right? That's what I'm there for. So it was really important to me when I came here, just so that I could really push this COP. Now, first of all, let me say something. There's some things here. It's not, community policing does not mean soft on crime. That's not a term that it is. In fact, it even says that. It's not soft on crime. It does not mean officers do not make arrests or refuse to answer calls for service. Nor does COP officers turn into social workers, though. COP, like any officers will make arrests, but they do consider arrest to be a tool in solving community problems. So other strategies can come from, which include input from community residents or help from other cities and agencies and different things. And these are all just big things to help the community grow, right? That's kind of what we do anyway. So COP is really not a big thing. Now, it's not a fix-all. It doesn't matter. You don't just come in and you do COP and all of a sudden the community is better in a matter of seconds. But it's a starting point to get the community and the police to work together. That's kind of what I want to do. I want to see the community, I want to see us work together. I realize that there will be people, I'm not dumb, that will not, no matter what, trust the police. That's okay. But it's really beneficial if we can get together as much as we can and try to get that. Now, let me talk about how it's going to work in Seldovia. And this is why I wanted to talk about it. Is we're not trying to do a lot of, like I said, huge changes, but mostly is I want people to come to me. And we do that. I noticed that in this community. People will come and talk to me, and I've got some letters, and I've got feedback from people that say, how to do this and that, and that's what I want, okay? And maybe if we talk together, we can figure out ways of fixing the problems. But the biggest thing I've noticed is, and I'll say this is quite common. Who here grew up and heard the comment, if you're bad, I'm going to call the police on you. It happens. I want to change, what I want to do with COP is change the communities and mostly children. I want the children to come to me. I want them to know that I'm a safe place to come to. I want them to get to know who I am. Not just the people, because I know there'll be some people who will come and some who won't. But if I can get the kids to slowly trust the police and understand that through community orienting, where they can come to me. So if there's a problem, I'm the person that they will feel safe with and they can come to with their parents, but they can come to me. I'm not the bad guy. I'm there to help them. So how do we change it? Really is communication. We're talking like we are. Having the community help me, which is great. And we're doing that, but it's such a small and tight community. That's perfect. So community-oriented policing is not a big change, really, other than I want to really reach out to the kids. The kids are where we're going to, it'll take a while, but eventually if they start to see the police as something that is not the bad guy, somebody that they can trust and know that that's who, if there's a problem, I can go to that person. You know, along with their parents, there's the police. That's who we want. We want them to trust us and know we are there to help them. And that's kind of where I got into the COP. It's interesting. It's not a new term. It's not a new thing, but it's more of how can I help this community grow? And so that's kind of where I came up when we were talking to Rachel about, the city manager and I were talking about this. Community-oriented policing is not something new. It's not, we're going to do a lot of changes, but you can see how if I can get people to slowly start coming and helping, it helps crime. It helps me know what to do. Rarely do police solve crimes alone. We don't. We need help. And that starts out, I'm hoping, with the kids who will eventually become adults, and that's where I get it. So thank you. I just wanted to give a little quick presentation on what COP, so you guys can understand. I realize there's a lot more involved in it, but you can see where I would like it to be for us to involve the children also in what we're doing. So.
Thank you. Are you planning on doing any talks at the school?
I've reached out to the principal, and as you guys know, obviously with COVID, there's not a lot that goes in through the school right now. So that's hard to get into there right now. But we've sent some emails, and he hasn't responded yet, but I know he's been busy and he hasn't come here. But hopefully that's where I can go to the schools and get them to see me, get them to know me. I don't want them to be scared. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do. The schools are the best place I can get the most of them together.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I like it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments for the chief?
This is John. Thank you, Paul. I think that's a great way of going about it. I think when it catches on and starts working, it'll be a lot better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Any other questions, comments? Okay, yeah, I'll just offer a comment. Yeah, appreciate that claim. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. And yeah, I think like you say, it's a good starting point for the police and the community to work together. Obviously, it's great public outreach, and if you can start with the kids, that's all the better. So yeah, in today's day and age, with all the stuff that's going on, the crazy stuff in the world, with the police and the interactions with the police and the community, it's tough. So anything we can do, even as small as we are, and we certainly don't have the level of crime that big cities do, but still, you want everyone in your community to be able to trust the police and know that it's a safe place, and people can reach out and talk to that person. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, good starting point, and look forward for more to come in the future. So appreciate your presentation tonight. Okay, we'll go and open up item H, public presentation for items not on the agenda. Heidi, any hands raised or anyone from the public?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it looks like we have a Miss Laurel Hiltz.
All right.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. This is Laurel. If you can hear me okay.
Yep, loud and clear, Laurel.
All right. So I will say that there wasn't public opportunity to speak to the presentations on the items that were on the agenda, but I wanted to thank Lisa and Mark for bringing forward quite a lot of data, and it'll fair bit to read through. But appreciate that probably took quite a bit of work to put all of that forward, and lots to learn and continue to learn. And, you know, again, I shared a lot about this the last time, but as a taxpayer, you know, it's certainly crucial to consider where our dollars are going and for what purpose. And so for me, definitely playing into the lives of the children in our community is a #1 priority, probably more of a priority than a shower for somebody. And I understand that there's a need. And so in that, I just look at things to consider is how our dollars best spent. And maybe there's ways to encourage and support businesses having showers and laundry facilities by reducing city water costs for those individuals and folks that have made those attempts in the past to make that available. So that would just be my 2 cents on that. In regards to events that are coming up in the community, we're getting close now to Easter. And so we'll see on Friday, the Friday before Easter, Seldovia Bible Chapel will have a Good Friday service. That'll be at 3 o'clock at the chapel. And then on Saturday morning at 11:30, the tribe will be hosting a community Easter egg hunt. And at noon, the chapel will be hosting an Easter party. And then on Sunday, Easter Day itself, at 7:30 in the morning, the chapel will host a community-wide sunrise service. The sun will have already risen, but we'll still go out to the beach, hopefully. We're hoping to get out to the beach as usual and have a celebration there, followed by a community breakfast potluck at the chapel. And then again at 11 o'clock will be the Easter service. And same day at the Lutheran Church, there will be a service at 2 o'clock. So lots of opportunities to celebrate Easter and all of the good things around that. And then we're just making plans, looking forward to great things to come. Earth Day later in the month of April, bike rodeo in May, kicking off the summer and going forward. And we're really especially looking forward to seeing the Seldovia Bay Ferry return. And that'll be on Thursday, the 20th of May. And so that's something we're really, really excited about. And folks can book their tickets online at any time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Laurel. I appreciate all your comments and information. All right, Heidi, anyone else from the public?
Yes, I see a Miss Shannon Custer.
Hello, can you guys hear me okay? Hi, thanks for letting me join you tonight. Great. I just wanted to echo a few statements, and I did also want to comment regarding the services through the SOC. In my role as Youth and Family Services Director for Seldovia Village Tribe, the predominance of the work that I do is with the children in the community, even though we do for adults and families as well. And through all of the conversations that I have had over the years with the parents in the community, one of the greatest needs that we have is for children in the K through 4th grade age bracket. And that's predominantly because those are the kids that we see as not really independent to be wandering the streets on their own. As they hit 5th and 6th grade, parents are giving them more independence. As they get into middle school and high school, even more independence, where they're spending time out and about with their friends and are able to self-direct their activities. Whereas this younger age group, for parents that want to be able to be working parents, they struggle with opportunities for programming for those school-aged children in that K through 4th grade bracket. We've attempted in the past to do programming and have successfully done programming, and COVID has kind of turned a lot of things on its ear for us. And one of the things that I think has always been a great asset in this community is the collaboration between different agencies. And certainly we've always worked well with the SOC in the past. I think Lisa Stanish has been one of the best leaders there at the SOC as a director of a program there. She and I have always collaborated well. She referenced that she's got after-school programming going on, and we do as well as Seldovia Village Tribe, and we made sure that our schedules did not overlap so that we're offering services to the kids in the community on alternating days so that there's different opportunities for the kids on different days through both of our organizations. So I really feel like inside of some of the things that we heard, outdoor activities are certainly where it's at right now as much as possible. But I worked in a school age childcare facility that was a before and after school program. And then in the summer months, it became a all day long childcare program, much like our Chinookna program is 9 to noon and 1 to 4:30, except ours was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And we were full all the time, 3 and 4 days a week, taking kids out and about on field trips. And nothing like that exists in our community. And part of the reason is there isn't a space to house a program where the kids have a dropping off and a picking up point. And the SOC has functioned in that role as the Boys and Girls Club in the past, and certainly as a place that we've, like I said, collaborated as SVT and the SOC to use that space and shared resources when it comes to finances and staffing. And so I really feel like, you know, when you think about trails and parks and rec and things like that, when I hear trails and gathering a group of people together, sure, they can all meet at the SOC and gather their resources and go, but I'm looking at that building that's just starting to get used again. And it's such a space, it's a community center that's in its name, and it's being underutilized in that capacity, in my opinion. And I would really love to see that we circle back around with the most vulnerable population that we have, which is this underserved population of K through 4th grade kids. You know, we do have our Chinookna program that's offering services to 0 to 5-year-old kids, and we've been doing that for years, and parents know about it, and the ones that don't need care have figured out a way to keep their kids home or use private families for babysitting. But when you get to that older group of kids, they need to get out more and doing more. And I just think that that's an opportunity that we should be looking into along with those other things, not in place of, but I think it's part of the conversation needs to be looking at that age group of kids. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm happy to work with Lisa and talk more about this and keep the conversation going. We've been challenged as well by not being able to use the school. We used to provide so many more services to the community through open gym times and after school programming in the school, but we certainly have always partnered with the SOC, and that's something that we miss. We missed that collaboration, fine arts camp and other things that took place there that were collaborative efforts as well.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Appreciate your comments. And any other hands? Anyone else from the public? Heidi?
I'm not seeing any at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go to item I, Committee and Advisory Board reports. We have none. Doesn't look like anyone signed up. I think what we'll do here, yep, go ahead.
If I may give a brief report on the Planning Commission?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to notify the council that a public hearing for a conditional use permit for a telecommunications tower is scheduled for the April 7th, sorry, can you hear me? I'll take this off. Is scheduled for the April 7th, 2021 Seldovia Planning Commission regular meeting. Notice was sent out to all the properties within a 300-foot radius of the site that's being proposed. And a packet is available on the website for anybody who wants to view the information for that telecommunications site and their proposal. I wanted to bring this to council's attention, especially because the commission is short 2 members. And for the Seldovia Planning Commission to take action on a conditional use permit, they need majority +1, so they would need 4. members of the commission to either approve or disapprove a conditional use. And without that, they'll be able to still hold their meeting, but what it will look like is it will most likely then come back to council as a recommendation for council to take action on. But I just want to, in case there was public listening, for them to also be aware that that packet is online, and for council that packet's online. And potentially that could be coming up at the next council meeting for discussion, depending on the planning commission's meeting on April 7th.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Appreciate that. I think right now, because my internet connection is starting to get a little spotty too, I think we'll just go ahead and take a 5-minute break here, let everyone get up and stretch, do their thing, and then I'm going to log out and log back in, and then we can finish up the second half of the meeting here. So if we can, try to keep it to 5, and then we'll take a short recess and then come back and start with public hearings on item J. Thank you.
Are we trying to start a band?
About ready to go, Heidi?
One thing I will say.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we're here and ready when you are.
These officer with masks scares the crap out of people. Easy to understand. Especially kids. Yeah.
All right, we're ready to go.
I think
Go ahead and call the meeting back to order.
Badly.
We'll go ahead and start with item J, public hearings, resolution 21-29, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending the policy for events and social gatherings at city facilities during the COVID-19 pandemic by removing the section entitled prohibited events and activities. And then right underneath this, we have, there is some substitute language that was brought forward. It's the exact same, except for the very last sentence in bold. It says, and addressing the city or city entities' use of non-city property. So the two are identical except for that addition in the substitute. And we'll go ahead and have a presentation by staff or council, or by staff, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. So resolution 21-29 was brought before council at the last meeting and postponed to this meeting in addition to the substitute to allow both sponsors of the resolutions to be present at the meeting. And so the original resolution just removes the 3 prohibited events, and the substitute resolution, as the mayor said, makes sure that city or city entities, when using non-city property, follow the mitigation measures that the city is requiring other people to use on city property. So I'll just give a brief overview, and we have Councilmember Rojas if you'd like to comment on the substitute resolution, and we're here for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Thank you, Rachel. Go ahead, Vivian.
Well, yeah, this came up, actually came forward in my head when I was trying to plan with the Seldovia Art Council, how we were going to move forward with our season of events. And the question came up, the Seldovia Art Council falls under the umbrella of the city of Seldovia. And the question came up how we were going to act responsibly if we were putting a concert or whatever on a non-city property. And so the question was, are we responsible and work underneath the umbrella of the city? Then would we carry that through as a responsible entity of the city to work with a contingent or a mitigation plan if we were actually not on the city property? And so it was very confusing in our meeting. And that's when I spoke with our city manager, Rachel, about how to go about clearing this up for entities. And so I'm very pleased with Resolution 21-29 substitute S, in that it covers everything of the previous resolution, but makes a clarity of entities working underneath the umbrella of the city, where there is no question of how we should perform and act responsibly. So I have any questions, if anybody has any questions, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for council discussion on any elements of the resolution 21-29 or its substitute.
I have nothing of, I appreciate the amendment and the clarification in the language there. I think it's well written.
Okay, thank you, Harmony. Any other questions or comments before we go to public? Okay, doesn't look like we have any. I know we discussed discussed it at length at our last meeting, and then the reason we postponed this was because I wanted to make sure that Vivian was here and had an opportunity to speak for that, and I know Harmony was gone as well. So, all right, we'll go ahead and move to the public. Go ahead, Heidi.
Yes, I was gonna say, you do have a member of the public, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Laurel Hills.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to ask a question, and maybe I already know the answer, but this, for the sake of asking, the way I'm understanding the proposal, basically, if traditional events were to occur, and we'll use the 4th of July celebration as a for example, in historical experiences of how many years and decades, we would expect that folks would line up with their vehicles, or they would walk or stroll or drive a four-wheeler or have a wagon in the parade, and then assemble along the street at the grandstand at the harbor area, where we'd have the national anthem, and we'd have the announcing of parade winners and the introduction of the old crab, etc. And so it would be the event coordinator's responsibility to have a record of every individual who was present, and it could be no more than 100. And I just need to have clarification on that that is the intent of this proposal that's in front of us. So it certainly would give us the community direction as to what we would or would not be able to do on city property or the road, which is the state's property, if we would be hindered from the city not allowing a permit application to go through the city for that. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You want to take that one, Rachel, or me? Thank you, Laurel.
And thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add that we're not changing anything else that's already been published online, going over the city's mitigation practices for events on public property. This resolution only removes the 3 prohibited events so that they can be reviewed in consultation with city staff and the event organizer, or we can go over requested information such as maintaining a list, temperature checks, various COVID mitigation practices. That would be in discussion with the administration department as well as the event organizer based on the COVID mitigation practices we've had in place since basically. And then Mayor, on.
Yeah, so just to add on to that, the whole intent is to be able to even get those the original items that were on that list that were prohibited, the stages, the beer gardens, and then any areas of assembly where kids might, not be able to social distance, to be able to pull those off of the prohibited list, and then let those be allowed if anyone wants to do those events on city property. And, one of them obviously is the 4th of July parade, but let that, be able to stand on its own merits based on, where we're at now, where we might be at, a month from now, because obviously things have been changing rapidly. They changed a lot in the last year. And the CDC has slowly started to change, not as quick as some of us would like, obviously, but, it's just, that way the event organizer then can submit a plan and work through the process with the city to come up with something, that's reasonable, to hopefully be able to allow, that event to go forward if it's agreed that it can be held safely, and meet the intent of the COVID mitigation. So that's all it is. I don't know if we have any specifics right now, but that's the intent, is to be able to, for a person to submit an application with a mitigation plan, and then hopefully have some good discussion and see what we can do to allow those events to take place on public, city or, state property, and not private property. Did that answer your question, Laurel?
I think my question spoke to, is the council aware that they are continuing to restrain or constrain the ability to have gatherings on city property, or through the city applying to the state for use of Main Street? Is the council aware that that is still the status, and that the max would be 100 people, and you'd have to have temperatures, and you'd have to have names and the ability to track? So we are continuing to constrain the community's ability to do one of its cornerstone events. And I would say that is in light of looking at very clear statistics and numbers and reports of no more than 550 people on the entire southern Kenai Peninsula in a 12-month period getting this illness. And I understand the myriad of feelings and opinions and thoughts centered around it, but I'm asking the council to, again, just be cognizant that we are continuing to constrain our community from being able to do gatherings. And the idea of being able to do something up to 100 people with everybody spread apart, 6 feet, etc. I don't know where that location is. It's not the school, because the borough's not going to let us be there. It might be Main Street. I'm not sure where those things are going to take place, but it's just disheartening to my spirit. And I just wanted to be able to share that tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Laurel. All right, well, obviously that, all of these are, any COVID items are a little bit controversial in nature. So John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, what I'm seeing it is, it's changing it from an outright no to a possibility. And if to me, you say 100 people that in an area, what given area would that cover? 200 square foot, you're going to have people spread out over 3/4 of a mile. So if you're thinking in terms of like 100 people, you have to have a given area that 100 people covers, square footage wise. So it to me it just goes changing it from an outright no to a very high possibility of being able to do it, which is a step forward, and hopefully in this next year we won't have to worry about it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all right, hang on, we got to get point of order here. So we had council discussion, then we had a public presentation. We had a comment by Laurel. I think what we need to do before we start debating here is get back to council action, and get it on the table in front of us, and then open it up to everyone for, additional comments and debate. So I think that's the proper way to do that. So what we need now is a motion to adopt the original resolution to get something in front of us to discuss and debate.
Mr. Mayor, if I may first.
Yep, go ahead.
We do have another hand raised from the public.
Okay, yep, then let's back up, and if we've got another member, let's go ahead and it looks like it's Crystal.
Yep, Ms. Crystal Collier.
I'm sorry, I'm happy to defer until after the council makes the motion. I just did want to speak again on behalf of the Seldovia Chamber of Commerce that as I spoke at last time, that I feel that this resolution is probably prohibitive of the businesses that may entertain having an event in this community. I don't believe that you can, let's say it's an outside or there's general public coming in and they're not all Seldovians. There's no way you're going to record the names of each person that may be on a street or maybe walk off a street to your event. There'd be no way to take their temperatures, even though the tribe itself probably has 30 handheld guns you point at people's heads. I think that you're creating something that could possibly just make people give up and not do anything again this year. And as I stated before, I think that's detrimental to the community as a whole and to the businesses of Seldovia for, again, to be shut down for another year. I think that businesses need support. They need to be able to know that they're backed by the city council. I don't believe anybody wants to be stupid and to attract COVID to Seldovia or to just be reckless in how they approach this. So that I would just speak to that I think that this is not going to be a good thing for the community, even though it does open it up to allow people to apply for these functions. But with those two stipulations, and there may be more, I think it would be a no-go for most businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay, I'm just reading back through real quick. It looks like on page 38 of the packet, when we start talking about larger market type or customer flow, community events requiring individual review and specific mitigation planning with staff. It talks about some events may exceed 100 people. Obviously, most of our large events would exceed 100 people. Talks about social distancing, if additional protocols are followed. Let's see. Okay, council authorizes the city manager to work directly with the event sponsor to review an event-specific COVID-19 mitigation plan and determine whether sufficient measures are in place. And these events often require a higher level of involvement and additional city resources and may be approved by the city manager on a case-by-case basis, providing the following items are met. And then that's where the strike through is on the event does not include any of the items listed as prohibited. So that would be out. A COVID-19 mitigation plan shall be developed by the event organizer to include those minimum items listed in section 2 above. So, and those minimum, I think this is what both Laurel and Crystal are referring to. And so a minimum of the item 2, let's see here. Yeah, the host or organizer is encouraged to maintain a list of attendees with contact information to provide to public health officials if needed for contact tracing. Okay, so the good thing is it says it's encouraged. And I would agree that I don't think you can, get into, maintaining that list is almost going to be impossible because we have so many different ways that people get into our community. So that was the one item. And then the plan, it jumps into the plan on page 38. The plan should include the following items at a minimum: requiring the use of cloth face coverings among staff and volunteers, and strongly encourage attendees ahead of the event to bring and use cloth face coverings, ensuring adequate cleaning and disinfection supplies, promoting good hygiene. I mean, it's basically going down the list. Then it gets to item E, describe how attendance will be tracked and what controls are in place to limit attendance to 100. I don't think that's possible in this case. There's a communications plan in terms of messaging about the events, and then designing a point of contact who's knowledgeable of the COVID-19 mitigation plan. So I read this and I think it's still, the way I understand it is it's still open to some elements of interpretation. And again, you guys will have to make up your own minds, but I think we're headed in at least the right direction here by looking to make a few changes here. So let's go ahead then, and at this time, go ahead and continue on with item. No more members of the public. Heidi?
I do not see any at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump down to final action disposition then. And if we can get a motion to adopt the main resolution 21-29, then we'll have something in front of us.
Mr. Mayor, I need another question answered before I'm ready to entertain a motion.
Okay.
Most of the constraints we're talking about are requirements that come from some higher entities. Is that not so? Aren't we basically following the governor's guidelines, is what he wants done in response to events under COVID? Did we come up with all this stuff just arbitrarily? Where aren't we complying with guidelines from the state?
Well, and Rachel, you can jump in anytime, but I don't think right now the state's got, there's health, it's changed because there's no specific mandates, but there's health, I think they're called health recommendations or whatever they are now, but since the emergency declaration expired and until the legislature passes something new, I don't think there's a whole lot actually on the books right now. Most of this, I believe, came from the CDC that from 1 year ago when or whenever this was implemented. Most of that stuff came from a combination of CDC and the state.
So then all these requirements we came up with ourselves.
I also have some clarification questions now that I read this more thoroughly.
Mayor, if I may, it says in the first paragraph of the policy document, the Centers of Disease Control and the State of Alaska Department of Health and Social Services have issued specific guidance for communities and event organizers aimed at preventing the spread of the coronavirus disease 2019. I wasn't at the city when this policy was developed, but to me that implies that those were things that were considered, and I believe the previous city manager worked with the city attorney as well in developing these policy documents. So the city of Soldovia pulled information from the CDC and the state in order to put together this this policy document.
So may I speak, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep, hang on one second, Harmony. So okay. George, no, 1 second. So George, did that kind of answer your question?
Well, yes, it sounds like we're pretty well bound to have some restrictions, and it seems we've made the restrictions as easy as we possibly can and still be in compliance with what the CDC or the state or whoever it is that's mandating this. Could we be more lax?
I would agree. Was your question, can we be more lax?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happens if you, I mean, there's plenty of states that are going against CDC recommendations. I mean, there's all kinds of states that are going against CDC recommendations, and I don't know what the repercussions are of that. That's why these are all controversial, because half the population doesn't want any controls and the other half of the population does want controls. So that's why it's.
Our constituents are telling us that they would like a little more leeway than what we're giving them with this document. Am I wrong?
I think that's the testimony we heard. Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Go. Hang on one second, John. Harmony had a question. She was next.
Yeah, so at the beginning of your clarification on your rewrite here, it states that this is a living document. Previously, when we were discussing re-upping these restrictions, my comment and request was that we have some sort of solid end date. And if our emergency declaration is passed and the state has lifted those mandates, then we as a city have the right to choose how strongly we implement those previously suggested restrictions. I just like to, reiterate that the state of Alaska is leading the way in COVID vaccination. I mean, I know 8 people who got vaccinated last week, just in my personal family circle. That's, I just feel that July is pretty far away, and in a concurrence with what Crystal and Laurel contributed, our community is a tourist-based economy. I don't think that we can survive another COVID-19 economy, and I think that having some sort of real end date for this barring an emergency, another statewide emergency declaration, I don't think this needs to be an ongoing, forever in existence thing. I'm not comfortable with that. As a community member, as a council member, as a human being, if the CDC tells us if we have our shot, then we don't need to wear a mask.
Okay, thank you, Harmony. John, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I think people are losing focus. As Harmony said, this is a living document. We finished this document and put it in place, and next week they do away with the emergency, and we cancel our emergency declaration. This document is no longer in effect. And in 5 years, something happens and you have to do an emergency declaration. These rules are already in place. It's a living document. It's not just for the COVID-19. It's for all biological, or whatever you want to call them, emergencies. It's the rules you need in place when something happens. That's what we're working on. It's not about next 4th of July. This is one of the documents we need to have in place. And when you cancel your emergency declaration, your rules for that emergency should be put back in the book and you go back to normal. That's my understanding of this. Is that correct or wrong?
Well, I think in this case it's wrong, because I think we've got our emergency operations plan, and this is just one piece of that plan. And Rachel, you can either jump in and elaborate, but this is one piece of that plan, and it's specific to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think when the time comes, this particular piece this policy can be done away with, not doing away with our entire emergency operations plan.
Oh, okay. Can I say something else?
Yep, go ahead.
say something like this happens in 10 years. Then you have to go through this process again and reinvent the wheel.
Well, you could just bring this policy back up. I mean, or whatever the case is. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in a year or two. That's how we did it. We came, that's what every community in the country did when COVID came out. Everybody had to, you know, come up, invent some sort of policy, and most of it was led by the CDC. So, you know, within the states following on, then the boroughs, and then the local communities. So,
well, this should be done without the name COVID-19 in it. This should be done because the next one that comes along will be different. That's what I'm trying to say, is if it's a living document, it should be done in such a way that when you need to use this part of the emergency operations plan, it's in place. Because if you're doing it as, oh, when it's done, we just throw it away, then you have to reinvent, the next people have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah, unfortunately though, we haven't, I mean, this is the first, I mean, we haven't had a pandemic, and I don't even know when the last pandemic was that we, you know, went through in this country. But obviously these items were specific to COVID because of the way it spreads, you know, and the way that, you know, it affects people. So, I mean, I think either way, I don't think it can be, there's not one plan that can be a generic catch-all for all of these. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's as simple as that, unfortunately.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're in discussion right now. We don't even have a motion on the table for 2129. I think we're getting confused. We need to keep the two things separate. Right now, we're talking about resolution 2129 and what we're going to do with it, not the declaration of emergency that's coming up. I think if you really look at this, I'm in favor of keeping something intact, being socially responsible to our community members. And I think really the on page 36, where we've got the City of Seldovia policy for events, is pretty much an open document that's going to go with whatever's happening in 2 months. If everything goes to heck in 2 months, then we know that we're going to implement pretty heavy. If things seem to be pretty light, it looks like this document to me, if you read it over, it's open to where people are going to have events. Chamber can actually go through the process, because as a city, we need to be responsible. And to me, being responsible means that we're prepared and we have something on the table in case something goes wrong. It doesn't mean that we're not going to let people do something. It just means that we're being responsible in addressing the concerns of the global world plus our own community. And so I think this allowable events, and where you were talking about Jeremiah number 2, organized activities, public and private. And then item 3, I think we've got it covered here, that we are going to let our city manager work with entities that are wanting to do something during 4th of July, seems to be what we're talking about right here. I think this document works very well and is open enough that we can hold it in our books and have our city manager work with it and move on with this resolution 2129, which is not the declaration of emergency. They're 2 separate items. Anyhow, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian, for that clarification. Okay, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
So I don't know if I'm way off base here, but number one, I agree with Vivian on what she just said. And I'm just curious because maybe I'm not understanding this, but has this policy for events changed since last year? Hasn't this been in place since the start of COVID?
Since we implemented it, I don't believe it has changed. I think this is the first changes that have come to this policy.
Okay, then what was wrong with the way we did things last year on the 4th of July? Was there any issues, problems? Did we do anything different than what we're proposing to do now? Because from what I heard from folks, last year went just fine. Is that right?
Well, no,
Everybody-
I'd have to disagree. I mean, we didn't have any people and we didn't have a parade. So other than that, I would say it was a success. I mean, for those businesses that did stuff on private property, but ultimately
Right.
we didn't have any people and we didn't have a parade. And we didn't have anything, anything on the streets or anywhere
thought there was-
on public.
I thought there was people going down the street. I mean, it wasn't a parade per se, but there was people and kids and stuff going down the street, weren't there?
Sure.
What I'm getting at is, I don't personally think that it was that bad with the little parade thing and the little things that SVT did for the 4th of July. That ended up being very popular with people. I mean, the reason we didn't have a lot of people wasn't because of us. I mean, it was because of what was happening. And that is still happening this year. Is it going to be better than last year? I would suppose it probably is. So I think this policy with the things that we've added in that resolution or taken out is just fine. I mean, we still have a duty to protect Seldovia. Whether some people see that as one of our functions or not, then I don't know. But anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
We do have a duty to protect the city. There's no two ways about it, but protecting the city covers a broad spectrum of things. And our economy is one part of it that we're also bound to try to protect. I think last year, 4th of July was a disaster for most of the businesses in town, but that doesn't make any difference. I'm not really in support of this as it is, this whole 21-29. I think Harmony hit the thing on the head. There should be a reevaluation of this, and it should be in writing, attached right to it. I think that would settle my fears about it if we added a clause to the end of it saying we're going to look at this again on the 1st of the middle of June or something, so that there would be time to say, well, look, things are quite a bit better. Let's maybe loosen this up a little bit, or things are way worse, and maybe we need to tighten it. But I really hope and I believe that the situation is going to be quite a bit better by the time we get to 4th of July. And I'd like to see us get back to normal as quickly as it is possible to do it safely.
Thank you. I was not at all trying to say that we should do away with this document. Nobody here is arguing that the city should not take care of itself. But this document should have a sunset period. I mean, there's some pretty strong language in here that was appropriate a year ago, but aren't necessarily appropriate for the coming months if things continue on their trajectory. And I just think that as a community, we don't need to have this type of some strong language. It doesn't need to continue to be in here as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, one quick comment.
Yep, go ahead, Pearlie.
Yeah, like you stated before, there's several states that are just backing away from the CDC guidelines and whatnot. And these are suggestions. I don't think these are carved in stone that we have to do any of this stuff. The city, I believe, in the council has the right at any time to just revamp this thing, if I'm thinking right. And the CDC guidelines are changing so rapidly that it's no longer 6 foot distancing, if I'm understanding it correct, it's at 3 feet. Well, that's pretty normal to me. I don't like anybody closer than 3 feet, even if it isn't a COVID situation. So I think we're spending a lot of time hashing this thing out when we can change it at any time. I think it's basically to the city's discretion to mandate some stuff, and I'm in agreement with George. I think last year's 4th of July was kind of not even a 4th of July. We need to take care of our businesses and get some people in here and do it safely. So I just feel like we're spending a lot of time on this. It's something that we can change at any time. So maybe I'm wrong. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Curly. Okay, any other questions or comments before we start with any motions? Okay, not hearing any. All right, we'll try to navigate this, and it sounds to me like there's any number of options here. So we've got the main resolution that seek to 2129 that seek to remove any of the prohibited activities, and then we have there's a substitute that's been sponsored that not only removes the prohibited activities, it further states what any of the city or the city's entities have to follow when they're sponsoring activity on non-city property. We've heard discussion that perhaps adding a sunset to the main document, or a substitute, and then even possibly rescinding this altogether. So there's a number of options we got to do. We can do. If it looks messy here, yeah, we try to muddle our way through it here and see how we can do this. Heidi, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I just do see another hand from the public, and I don't know if you are still allowing public participation, but I wanted to bring that to your attention that there is another member of the public wishing to add comment.
Okay, yeah, at this point, let's go ahead and listen to it. It's out of order, but let's go ahead and listen to it, and then we'll get on with it here.
Okay, so Ms. Susie Stranick, Mr. Mayor.
Hello, this is Susie Stranick.
Hey, Susie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Seldovia Arts Council has been actively planning our season. We have put a mitigation plan in order, and we have a committee working on that. We plan on working with the city, but we are really hoping that things open up in Seldovia, and that your vote tonight will allow us to go forward with the programs that we have already planned for our schedule. We do have a concert planned on private property for this weekend, but we have moved our main music festival event to Labor Day weekend, hoping that things will continue to open up so that we can look forward to having a bigger crowd and not being limited by the guidelines that are currently in place. So we're just hoping that the decisions made will allow us to move forward and to provide some really fun entertainment this summer for our community.
Hey, thank you, Susie. Appreciate that input. Okay, we'll bring it back to council here. What do you guys want to do at this point?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move forward with putting a motion on the table. What I don't understand is if we can go right directly to resolution 21-29S, if that would be the proper way to put that motion on the table, which is everything that 21-29 has, except for it includes and clarifies addressing the city or city entities' use of non-city property. That's the only difference.
Okay, no, what we do is get 21-29 on the table, and then I'll ask if there's any substitute language. And then we could get the substitute, we could debate the substitute, and then, I mean, during the debate, we could offer other amendments to those motions. Those other amendments could include, you know, any of the number of things that we talked about, including the sunset, or any other changes to the plan, I guess, at this point. Someone could also, I guess, I don't think it would be prohibited. Someone could make a motion to completely rescind the plan right now as well. If that's, you know, if that's the wish of the council. So that's.
Mr. Mayor. Yep, Mr. Mayor, then I would like to make a motion that we accept resolution 21-29.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a motion to adopt 21-29 with a second. At this time, I would ask if there is a motion for any substitute language.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep,
I would make a motion that we put a sunset date of the first meeting in June. And we could review it at that time, and if it's okay, we could either rescind it then or change it, degrade it, or upgrade it at that point also.
okay, so you want an offer before we get to the substitute, then you want an offer, an amendment. Okay, we need to think this through here, because if there's gonna be a number of repercussions here if things fail. Do you want to offer that amendment now, or do you want to offer it to the substitute?
I would offer it. I'll offer it on the substitute. That way
Okay,
they both come back at that point.
Yeah, I think that's cleaner. I think that's cleaner.
Okay.
Vivian, why don't you go ahead and have the floor.
Oh, did we get are we up on
Yeah.
that? I'm not sure.
We had a second on that. We had a second on 21-29.
Okay. Then at this point, I would like to make a motion that resolution 21-29S. Or did he say that already? Somebody was cutting out.
Yep, no, you're good. So we'll need, is there 21, there's a motion for 21-29S, the substitute. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a second by Colberg. Okay, at this time, we have a motion to substitute 21-29S for 21-29. We have a second, and we'll go ahead and have discussion on the substitute.
Mr.
Okay.
Mayor, if I, oh,
Yep,
Go ahead, Vivian.
go ahead, Vivian.
okay. Yeah, well, we've addressed this and I still feel fully that we should keep the resolution 21-29S on our books. And if it would help this thing pass, this responsible direction that the city I feel should be in, to put a sunset date to reevaluate it, if that would help people feel a little bit better and pass it, then I would be okay with that. Again, this document that follows in our packet about purpose and applicability, it leaves really it open for the city manager to work with those who want to do things within the city. I see it as Pearlie said, we're spending a whole lot of time on something that I think we're all in favor of working towards having our community open. We're just being responsible council members. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. I think we have documents here that work to protect the community and keep the community open for activities. I don't see it as a a negative whatsoever. So I am in favor of this resolution 2129S. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I agree with Vivian, and I would like to put a sunset date of the first meeting in June to have it brought back before council.
Okay, so what you're looking for, that is a motion for an amendment to amend 21-29, the language of 21-29S. Heidi, you'll have to jump in here if we are going sideways, but I think we're okay right now to work through some amendments here. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, we'll work through the amendments, and then you'll get the vote for the substitute, and then the vote for,
On the main motion.
On the main motion, yeah.
Okay, yep. Okay, so John has offered an amendment to add a sunset to the first meeting date in June. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion on that amendment?
Just remember, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just throw in a little tip.
Go ahead.
Just remembering, again, if it makes people feel more comfortable, I'm in favor of it. Hopefully it doesn't people feel apprehensive that we're putting a sunset date. We could go either way on this. I want the community members to feel like we're moving forward and we're not trying to stifle anything. So either way, if it makes people feel comfortable, have the date on there, great. Just those who see the date, don't be afraid that if things get worse, then things are going to change. But we're just trying to help out and move things on here. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian. Any other comments on the amendment? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on the amendment, and the amendment is to add sunset date of the first meeting date in June. All those in favor, Morrison?
Aye.
Rojas?
Aye.
Newton?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
Sweat?
Aye.
Goldberg?
Aye.
Okay, so the amendment passes. So there's amendment for the sunset date. The amendment right now is currently passed. We're still on the discussion for the substitute 21-29. Any further discussion or amendments on 21-29? Okay. Seeing no further discussion on the 21-29 as amended, we will go ahead and vote on 21-29 as amended. All those in favor, Morrison?
Aye.
Excuse me, 21-29S as
Yes.
amended. Sorry about that. Okay, Morrison was a yes. Rojas?
Yes.
Peyton?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Brett?
Yes.
And Colberg?
Aye.
Okay, 21-29S as amended passes unanimously. That will now take back to the main motion, which is 21-29S as amended. Is there any further discussion on 21-29S as amended? Okay, hearing no further discussion, we'll take a final vote on 21-29S as amended. All those in favor, Morrison?
Aye.
Rojas?
Aye.
Peyton?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
What?
Aye.
Colberg?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. That's 21-29S, which is the substitute language with an amendment to have a sunset clause on the first meeting date of June. All right, Heidi, you good with everything?
That was fantastic, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. I know these are not easy to do in terms of, you know, what we're trying to accomplish without being, you know, anti-business, you know, or, you know, putting the community at risk, you know, should something happen. So I think this is probably the best outcome we could come up with, given the circumstances here. So now, with the new language and a sunset in there, I think that certainly gives the opportunity for the chamber to come forward and put an application in, you know, for the parade. And then obviously, if things continue to go better, it looks doable to me. If things get worse, obviously, we still have a tool on the books to address it. So thank you, everyone, for that debate. And I think that was probably the best outcome we could ask for. So let's move on to item J2, resolution 21-30, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, further extending the disaster emergency declaration for the City of Seldovia, originally issued on March 20th, 2020, and ratified by City Council due to the impacts of the COVID-19 health emergency to June 30th, 2021. This will be found on page 48 of your packet, and we'll go ahead and have a presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution extends the City of Seldovia emergency declaration from the end of this month until the end of June 2021. We heard from Representative Stutes, Senator Stevens, as well as KPED Executive Director Tim Dillon about the financial benefits of having the emergency declaration in place. And then in addition, in your packet is a memo analyzing what would happen if the emergency declaration expired. And we are available for questions from council.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We'll go ahead and open it up to staff or council for questions or comments.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, everything that I read and listened to about that disaster emergency declaration sounded good to me, and there was no repercussions really of not having it as opposed to having it. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, if I
Yep,
may?
go ahead, Vivian.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
I also in total support. This document to me is just a great piece of work that we have in our drawer as needed. There's no reason to get rid of it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vivian.
Mr. Mayor?
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead, John.
Yes, I agree
Yep,
with,
go ahead, John.
I agree with Bobby and Vivian both. I'm in full support of it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no other comments, we'll go ahead and open it up to the public for questions, comments. Any hands up, Heidi?
I do have a member of the public in the room.
Okay.
And that's a Mr. Rad, I can't say your last name.
Radzi, just Radzi's.
Radzi.
Just a comment, it might be worth considering making the termination of the previous one and the termination of this one be the same. No? Okay. Just a comment.
This aligns with the borough.
Ah, yes, that makes more sense.
Okay, you're good, Razzie?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other members of the public, Heidi?
I'm not seeing any hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and bring resolution 21-30 back to council for final action disposition.
I make a motion to accept resolution 21-30.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion by Sweat to accept resolution 21-30, second by Colberg. All those in favor, Morrison,
Heidi has her hand up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I may, before you guys do the vote, could we get a possible amendment on the resolution? There was a typo in the header, I believe, that has the date of March 20th, 2020, when it should read June 30th, 2021.
Oh, March 20th is when
Or
it
sorry,
started.
March 31st, 2021 at the end of the header should read June 30th, 2021. It follows in the rest of the document, but if we could just amend the header to say June 30th, 2021 instead of March 31st, 2021.
okay, I was gonna ask you about that because I saw that it's down in section 1. I wasn't sure if the header should have been changed too, so. Okay, let's let's go ahead and just quickly, if we can have someone move to amend that. Let's see, hold on here. Let's see. Okay, so let's get the, we need to get the resolution. We have that, we already had that motion made, correct? We were just getting ready to vote on it.
Correct, so this would just be for the amendment and then you could vote on the main motion after the amendment.
Yep, let's vote.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so if we can get someone off, quick amendment, go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, I kind of was losing you there. Yes, I'd like to make a amendment to resolution 2130 in the title from changing dates from March 31, 2021 to June 30th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to change the dates from March 31, 2021 to June 30, 2021 in the header there. On the last couple words there. All those in favor, Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
She is trying to reconnect at this moment.
okay, there she is. Let's give her just a second here. Harmony, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, we just had a motion, we just had an amendment offered to correct the dates in the header, and we are now voting on that. It's to correct the dates from March 31st to June 30th, 2021. So it's your turn to vote. You're yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Colbert.
Aye.
Okay, so the amendment passes unanimously. Back to the main motion, resolution 21-30 as amended, and we'll go ahead and have a final vote on that. And all those in favor, Morrison,
Aye.
Rojas,
Aye.
Peyton,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Sweat,
Aye.
Goldberg.
Aye.
Okay, resolution 21-30 as amended passes unanimously. Okay, we'll go ahead and jump down to item K, unfinished business. Item L, new business. We'd originally had a presentation scheduled, but tonight for Seldovia Water and Sewer Rates and a budget with guest speaker Steve Wadley, the CPA from Altman and Rogers, but due to time constraints, he had to leave the meeting. So Rachel, should we just plan on just postponing this one? Do you think we'd be able to get him back at next meeting?
Yes, I'm ready to go with a presentation, but I think it would be more beneficial to have him online when we discuss water and sewer rates, so we can postpone until April 12th, and that would give me more time to tack on some other budget-related conversations at that meeting.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's see, let's go ahead and, yeah, so we'll just, yeah, we'll just go ahead and have no action on that, and we'll bring that back at the next meeting. Let's go down to item M, administration reports, and we'll start with the treasurer's report, and that's on page 54 of your packet.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the council. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Jan.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, as you can see on the narrative, permanent fund balance is about where it has been. The main income that we're getting into that fund is from our remote seller sales tax. So basically things that people purchase on the internet. You know, you notice in recent months and a couple of years now that there's sales tax being charged on that. We receive a percentage of that, and that is going into the AMLET fund. Our interest on that has been fairly low. It's been about $6 a month. So that's been the main income there, is that remote seller sales tax. In terms of general fund revenues, currently we're at about 122% of projected revenues. The last 2 months of sales tax, property tax, et cetera, that we've received from the borough have been lower, but we kind of expect that because we're between the quarters there, and the quarterly payments are the larger ones. So hopefully we'll be seeing a larger payment for March. In terms of expenditures, we are doing pretty well. You know, we're at about 70% of the way through the fiscal year. Our general fund expenditures are at about 59%. So that's looking pretty good. And in general, as we go across the special revenue funds, it's the same thing we've seen the last few months. Our revenues are generally ahead of our projected budget, and our expenditures for the most part are behind, which is the way we want it for that. The one or the two exceptions where the revenues are maybe not quite at that 70% are the dock special revenue fund and the boat haul out. But again, that's expected. You know, a lot of the dock revenues that we receive are related to the marine highway system, which of course has been on hiatus for the few months. With the ferries starting to come back now, we should see those revenues pick up. Likewise, the boat haul out is almost entirely inactive during the winter. And so as the spring season comes on, people's boats going back in the water, we should see those revenues picking up as well. We did bill out for annuals for the harbor this last month. And so you'll see the Harbor Special Revenue Fund, which had been lagging quite a ways behind, is now at 82% of projected revenues. Not all of that has been received, of course, since we just sent the billing out about 2 weeks ago, and people have until May to get those annuals in, but we have been seeing quite a number come in. And so we are pretty encouraged by that as well. The only other kind of item of note is if you look in the miscellaneous revenue in the general fund, you'll see an amount of $18,732.77 of overpayments that was made to the IRS. We're still kind of trying to track down how that happened, but it was in one of the quarters in 2019, there was a large overpayment made. And we were able to secure that back from the IRS. And so that is showing as income. And so that's kind of an outlier there, but that was good news to get that money back. So the other, I guess, item is basically that the FY audit is very close. It's in draft form. And so we're hoping to have a version of that out to the city council. Rachel can speak to this more, but I believe next month we're hoping to have that in front of you. So, and I'm open for questions.
Yeah, I have one, Jan.
Okay, thank you, Jan. Yeah, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, what is that huge payment of $51.02?
I don't know the entire background on that, but I know that there was some sort of class action lawsuit against this A1 janitorial supply, and I am assuming that we had made purchases from them because I believe it was related to overcharging. And so apparently sometime before my time, we received a payout as part of a class action lawsuit that the city was apparently a part of. I don't believe that that payment was very large either. And then last week we got a notice that after all the settlement money or the initial settlements had been distributed, there was still some settlement money left over. And so they distributed that among the claimants as well. And that is that $51 there. So it's a small amount. I included it because it was kind of unusual.
Hey, well, yay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Vivian.
Yeah, nice job, Jan, on your report. Was the IRS refund something that we noticed, or IRS got a hold of us and said we overpaid?
It was, yeah, they give us reports, on a fairly regular basis and kind of show us where our standing is. What they don't do is they don't say, oh, you had, this overpayment in this quarter, you can apply it against these other quarters. The other quarters, they still want you to pay the amount you owe for that quarter. And so I think that may have been contributed to that outstanding balance kind of being missed for a while. But we finally did manage to get them on the phone, track it down, and we got a nice check from them a couple weeks ago.
Excellent. And does that just go in the general fund, or where do those funds as a refund go?
I'm going to have to speak with Rachel a little bit and potentially our auditors as to how they want that managed. If we want to try and, track it back into the particular accounts that it originally came out of. But generally, those payments, we credit those kind of across the accounts. And so we're going to have some discussions about if we wanted, like I said, try and credit that back, because this was fiscal year 19
right,
that it came out of. So it would be challenging to figure out how best to do that. So for now, we just have it parked in miscellaneous revenue, and we'll have to figure out where it goes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Anyone else with questions for Jan? All right, Jan, thank you for your report this evening. We appreciate it. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item M2, City Manager's Report. That'll be found on page 72 of your regular packet.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope my internet will let me participate visually. A shorter manager's report. So I hope you guys are happy about that. I'm trying to condense. For budget preparation, just letting you know that the finance officer and I are working on those discussions. We're doing a 3-year average to come up with our proposed FY22 figures, and we'll also take into account some anomalies that we could expect to see for fiscal year 22. For example, what might be brought before to council is funding chains for the backhoe, looking at getting a wing for the grader, and just more discussions as the budget unravels. So it won't just be an average of the 3 years put into the budget. It'll have some thorough analysis as to what bigger expenses we could expect to see if we need additional help for our public works department, particularly for the water treatment plant. So just giving you the heads up that that's underway. The finance officer brought up the FY20 audit. That was very close to being brought before council, but the auditors give us a chance to review the draft and offer comments. And I just met with the auditor today to ask some of those questions. And we have to go back and do some read journal entry corrections because once the audit is produced, it's almost like a moment in time. You're not supposed to change it. And so we've been coding some expenses back into time, which we weren't supposed to do. So now we're going to code those out and reflect them in our FY21 budget. So that's some of the housekeeping that we have left to do for the FY20 audit. And I hope that makes sense. Just wanted to give a heads up that the ferry for this month is on Friday. And just a reminder that the ferry is requiring masks, and the city has masks that the public can have at no cost so that you can get on the boat no problem. There's also a breakdown of the smolt enhancement opportunity that Mike Booz with Fish and Game is helping me explore with Cook Inlet Aquaculture Association. We should know soon if they would have the capacity to expand the amount of Chinook smolt so that next summer we could plant more smolt, so that way Seldovia in 2 to 3 years could have a really big king salmon year, and we could work with the chamber to hopefully advertise that. That would be a really exciting opportunity if that's where we want to put the $25,000 legislative appropriation to. And then the last thing in the manager's report is we're going to do a change to the staff reports. So rather than have the harbor master and the finance officer report the second meeting of the month, we'll save their presentations for the quarter, each quarter. And in the manager's report, I put the next meeting they would present at is June 28th. But we're going to actually, because that's right around the end of the fiscal year, we'll postpone that one to the first meeting in July. But the idea is that we'll have more information to share with council. It'll also help us keep our staff to regular working hours and avoid more overtime. And then hopefully, just have more information to share with council. So that's what I have for the manager's report, and I'm open for any questions. And there was additionally a laydown packet, which included information concerning the recent situation we had at the Susan B. English School. And I'm happy to report that school will be open tomorrow. Students will be able to resume going to school tomorrow, which is great. And the city partnered very well with the borough. Our staff worked so well with their maintenance staff to try and help them as much as possible with the situation, which was identified on their property. So I think overall it was a great relationship building exercise between the city and the borough. And we'll just continue to stand by and help them as they remedy the situation on the ball field with the potential sewage seepage. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. Anyone have any questions or comments for the city manager?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yep. Rachel, if we,
Go ahead.
Oh, yep. Thank you. I'm looking to see what our schedule is. When are you bringing forward for the council the fee schedule? Is that in this? Have you got a date lined out? When you're bringing?
Yes. Let's see. I'm looking for the tentative budget schedule.
Yeah.
May 10th.
Okay, so that'll be the first time that we're all looking at what you put together then? Is that what you're saying?
Right, so I'm hoping the second meeting of April, you'll be provided a draft budget document.
Okay.
And then we'll have a special meeting between those two dates where we can go through your questions. And then the budget would be formally introduced the first meeting in May and then adopted by council the second meeting in May. So that includes the budget, the fee schedule, and also your recommendations for where community assistance funding, if we receive that, what projects we would like to put that towards.
Okay, great. And I like that you've got the city auditors possibly coming down. I mean, they say they would like to attend. That would be great. All right, thank you. Yeah.
You bet.
Thank you, Vivian. Appreciate that. Any other questions or comments for the city manager? Okay, thank you, Rachel, for your report this evening and your brief narrative. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and move on to item M3, the Chief of Police report. And that is found on page 87 of your packet. And I see Clayton still in building. Chief, did you want to offer any comments at all to your report?
Not much more than what it says. Like I said, got some interesting cases a lot this month, which has been really good for communications with different departments, different, the DA's office. I got to meet with the police chiefs of the Kenai area. Got to meet all these things, which is going to just, the more I get to meet and talk to these different people, I get to help Seldovia, hopefully. That helps us out. Learn new things, get more information, anything we can. But other than that, I'm still working on fixing up the office, now we're into computers. So it's coming along. So everything is going good, considering we're getting snowed in here. It's good.
Good. No, appreciate that. I know you've had a number of interactions with the troopers too, and that sounds like you guys are starting to develop a pretty good working relationship there as well. So whether that's good or bad, but it can only be good most likely, in terms of our relationship. So appreciate that. Any questions or comments from the council for the chief? Okay, no further comments on the chief of police. We'll go to the harbor master's report, and that's on page 88. That's the next page. And that all looks in Liz typical format, going down the ongoing projects, the list of completed projects. And she's highlighted the X-ray machine removal project again. So that's good. Looks like it's gone. So there's lots of pieces there. I know I had a discussion with her about that, and working with the state and making sure everything you see in the photos there, all the electronics and stuff had to be removed out of it, and it's quite a process when you're actually getting rid of an X-ray machine. So pretty interesting. Any questions, comments, concerns on the harbor master's report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm curious what's happening with the bear resistant trash cans. Was Layla able to get any funding she's got in here from the Safari Club Alaska?
Heidi, go ahead, Heidi, if you want to jump in.
Do you mind if I take this, Rachel?
Go ahead.
So I have been on the phone with Dave, the Alaska Safari Club. He's called on Friday, and I spoke with him again today. And they had a meeting last Thursday where their board agreed to purchase 5 double trash cans for the city of Seldovia. They did not want to pay for shipping, but they're paying for the cans themselves. They asked to have their logo on them to represent their organization. And then on Monday, they called Bear Saber to actually work on that payment for those cans. And Bear Saber let them know that since the last quote that we received from them, the price had gone up a little bit. So Dave called me and spoke to the Safari Club, still wanting to purchase those cans, and if we could get them a new quote, that potentially that they would pay for the difference of the updated price. So we sent that quote out today, and I haven't heard back. But they had every intent of just calling them up and paying with the credit card on the new quote, and then the city will pay shipping, which was right around $3,000.
Thank you, Heidi. Appreciate that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, that's good news. Obviously, looking forward to a few changes this summer on the trash situation that we've had last year with the Bears. So sounds like we're definitely going to be making some progress, and we'll probably have a lot more work to do on that, but we got to start somewhere, and this is a great start to that. Public Works report, that's going to be found on page 92.
And Mayor, if I may just make a quick comment on the Harbor Master's report. Both the Harbor Master and our Soldovia Space caretaker, Radzi, and our Public Works crew were all involved in dismantling that X-ray machine. It was at times harrowing. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to the people who work behind the scenes, including Radzi, who literally works behind the scenes to help keep our council meetings going virtual. So just throwing that out there.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We appreciate you always pointing out some folks sometimes that don't get the recognition, so thank you. Okay, maintenance report on page 92. That's our Public Works report. Looks like they've obviously been busy with snow removal. Got the lift station pump ordered. I know they've been working on the harbor kiosk. We've talked about that. And it looks like the new boiler is ordered for the multi-purpose building. So that's good. Looks like things are going well back up at the water treatment plant. And let's see, upcoming projects, added value building organization. I know that's kind of being used for storage, so that'll be good to see that getting cleaned up. And then city impound and city boatyard brushing in the spring. We're obviously still a month or two away from that when the snow finally gets out of here. And then looks like the final setting of the kiosks or the economic development buildings. So that will be good. Any questions on the Public Works report? Okay. Having none, that'll take us down to item N, informational items not requiring action. Looks like the Soldovia City Office will be closed Monday, March 29th, 2021 in observance of Seward's Day. Item O, executive session, none. Item P, council and mayor comments concerning items not on the agenda. And we'll go ahead and start off with Morrison.
Yeah, thanks. Great meeting and very informative meeting. This was great. Thanks.
Thank you, Pearlie. Rojas.
Yes, thank you everyone for all your hard work. Great meeting, lots of information. I think we move forward very well as a team. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Peyton.
I'd just like to say thank you to staff for putting this together and keeping us up to date and hearing us out on our varying opinions. And thank you to the public who participated tonight. That's great. I hope we get lots more of that.
Thank you, Harmony. Nathan.
Last week, or last meeting, I asked about the camera. We used to have a webcam that looked at the airport. And I wondered if anybody had found out anything about if we just knew where the camera was, I would take it on myself to try to find a new location for it and get it back online. If we could even determine where it is.
Any ideas from staff or anyone?
Do you know who it belongs to?
Maybe the chamber? Is that possible?
It's possible. They have, the chamber has a camera at the city office that looks over the city dock.
Yeah, the harbor, there's a harbor camera and another one looks out from the lodge and that way.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
There is a comment from the public, Ms. Laurel Holtz.
Okay. Yep,
Yeah, Mr. Nathan, that is still Chris Lethine is the direct contact regarding that camera.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Laurel, for getting us educated on that. Okay, George, did you have any other comments?
No, that's about it. It was a good meeting. I think we thrashed through a lot of stuff and Appreciate the staff's hard work on all of this. See y'all next time.
Okay, thank you. Sweat.
Yeah, same. Thanks to the staff for all their hard work. It was a good meeting, lots of information. And yeah, Rachel, you're doing a great job. So thanks.
Colberg.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the staff for all their hard work and great job. It was a good meeting. Thank everybody and thank the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Yep, I'll just echo the same sentiments. Great job, everyone. Appreciate everyone's spirited debate and comments again. I think we did as good as we could tonight with what we have to deal with on that issue, on the COVID issue. So thank you, everyone, and thanks to the public for their participation. Next meeting will be held on April 12th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a second? Okay, motion to adjourn with the second. Any objections? None heard. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Okay,
Yeah.
good night.
Good night,
Thanks. Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Right,